hoped her marriage to Kevin would be her ticket to a loving, supportive family life. Yet from the very beginning, her reality was starkly different. Her mother-in-law, Debbie, watched Megan's every move with a critical eye, quick to find fault in all she did. Debbie's criticism seemed endless. The way Megan cooked, cleaned, and even dressed was never up to Debbie's standards. These comments were not small suggestions, but pointed accusations meant to belittle. As if that weren't enough, John, her father-in-law, stood by silently, never defending her. He often nodded in agreement with Debbie's sharp words, making Megan feel isolated and unsupported in the very place that should have been her safe haven. The weight of their constant judgment was draining, and she felt her spirit shrinking as their words chipped away at her confidence. Adding to Megan's distress was the pressure to have children, a subject Debbie was relentless about. The painful reality was that Megan and Kevin had been trying to conceive for months without success, and every failure felt like a personal defeat. Debbie, however, used their struggle as another means to undermine Megan. "What's taking so long? Don't you want to give Kevin a family?" she'd ask, making it sound like Megan was the reason for the delay. Kevin's silence on the matter was a betrayal that hurt her even more. One night, he even casually mentioned how other couples have kids without any trouble, leaving Megan feeling humiliated and alone in her struggles. She wanted to believe that he would support her, but his dismissive attitude showed her otherwise, planting seeds of doubt in her heart about their future together. Although Megan considered leaving, she felt trapped by the weight of her commitments. She was a dedicated manager in her company's overseas business department, a position she had worked tirelessly to attain. Her job provided her with a sense of purpose and stability, something that grounded her amid the chaos of her personal life. The thought of leaving her marriage was daunting, especially with the pressure to uphold a positive image at work and in the eyes of her parents, who had high hopes for her marriage. They believed she was living her dream life, and Megan feared shattering their illusions by admitting the painful truth. So instead of confronting the reality of her broken marriage, Megan buried herself in her work, hoping that with time things might change. She held on to a faint hope that Kevin would come around, or that Debbie's harshness might soften. Despite her efforts to maintain an image of composure, the strain took a toll on Megan's health. She found herself feeling exhausted and emotionally drained, with barely enough energy to get through her daily tasks. To cope, Megan turned to activities that allowed her to find some peace. She took up yoga and meditation, practices that helped her clear her mind and regain a sense of balance. On weekends, she met with friends who, aware of her situation, provided a much-needed source of comfort. These friends encouraged her to stay strong, reassuring her that she deserved respect and understanding. One of them even invited her to a women's empowerment seminar, where Megan was reminded of her self-worth and the importance of setting boundaries. The event sparked something within her, a small but growing determination to stand up for herself and reclaim control over her life. As Megan gained strength from her support network, she threw herself into her work with newfound vigor. She began taking on larger projects, her leadership skills drawing admiration from colleagues and superiors alike. Her success at work was a source of pride, a reminder of her competence and resilience. However, her achievements only seemed to fuel Debbie's discontent. Debbie accused her of neglecting her family duties in favor of her career, spreading rumors among relatives that Megan was deliberately avoiding having children, or, worse, engaging in an affair. These baseless accusations hurt Megan deeply, as she had tried so hard to fit into the family and be a dutiful wife. For the first time, she realized that no matter how much she sacrificed or endured, Debbie would never see her as worthy. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but it also clarified something essential. She had to take control. Determined to confront Debbie's manipulations and clear her name, Megan decided to take a bold step. She hired a detective to gather evidence of Debbie's constant surveillance and attempts to sabotage her reputation. Over the following weeks, the detective meticulously collected video footage and notes, capturing Debbie's interference and the scheme she used to cast Megan in a negative light. With enough evidence in hand, Megan knew she had to confront the family. She chose Debbie's birthday gathering as the perfect setting, a moment when the entire family would be present. Sending out a message to her relatives, she hinted that she had an important announcement to make, piquing their curiosity. She prepared herself for the confrontation, knowing that the video evidence would finally reveal the truth. As the day of the gathering approached, she felt both nervous and resolute, ready to reclaim her honor. The atmosphere at the party was celebratory as family members mingled, laughing and sharing stories. Debbie was the center of attention, basking in the affection of her relatives. But as Megan took the microphone, a hush fell over the room,
C'est vrai que c'est bien sombre,
Thank you
hein,
all
c'est
for
là-bas.
being here, she began, her voice steady but tinged with an
Demain,
underlying
là, aujourd'hui,
tension.
on a fait un
I have
Okinawa un peu
something important
culturel.
to share with everyone.
On a fait la
She
l'école
gestured to the
d'Okinawa,
screen
on a
and
fait
projector
la
set up
teinture-
nearby,
la teinture
and with a
d'Okinawa,
click of the
la
remote,
bouffe,
the
le
video
château.
began to play.
Demain, on va faire
The
aussi des
footage
trucs
displayed
culturels, on va faire
Debbie's
des-
actions in stark
des
detail.
sanctuaires,
Her surveillance of Megan, her hiring of a
des
detective
jardins.
to gather evidence, her constant
On va aller
efforts
voir
to
la mer aussi
manipulate
demain.
and control.
On va aller en bord de
The
mer, je
relatives
pense.
watched in stunned silence as
Ça va être
each
cool.
scene unfolded, revealing the extent of Debbie's hostility. Megan stood quietly, observing their reactions,
Oui,
feeling the weight of years of
l'île aux
injustice
chats,
beginning to
c'est
lift.
très bien, on fera l'île aux chats un jour.
As the video came to an end, a wave of shock and anger swept through the room. The relatives exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of disbelief and outrage.
Arrêtez, mais c'est pas... mais...
Debbie, unable to hide her turmoil, turned pale, her once
Oui,
confident
vous
demeanor
assumez,
crumbling
même
under
pas
the
vous assumez.
scrutiny. John looked stunned,
Vous
his
m'inventez
face
un faux
reddening as he
anniversaire.
realized the role he had
Même
played
pas
by
vous sauver
standing
la
by
chaîne.
silently. When Megan spoke
Bon,
again,
d'escroc.
her voice was
Ah, c'est
firm.
gentil.
I
Première
am
fois qu'un mec s'arrête
innocent,
ici à
she said,
Okinawa.
addressing the
C'est
room.
une dinguerie.
I have endured this
Enfin,
treatment
quelqu'un
without
d'aimable.
reason, and I
Facile.
ask for
Enfin, un
fairness.
conducteur aimable.
One by one, the relatives approached her, expressing their regret for having doubted her. They offered
Donc
words
attends,
of
il a
encouragement,
envoyé des messages privés à
affirming
tous
their
les gens de la
belief in
chaîne
her innocence and condemning
pour
Debbie's
me créer
actions.
un faux anniversaire.
John, filled with remorse, apologized for the years of mistreatment. Megan
Victor de
accepted
Stream,
his
ah ouais,
apology
c'est pareil.
quietly,
Ah, c'est
knowing
pareil,
that
on a
she had
Victor de
finally
Stream,
been
ouais.
vindicated.
Ah, c'est
The days following
On
the
m'a dit dans
revelation
l'oreillette
were a turning point in
que j'ai fait
Megan's
Victor de
life.
Stream.
Debbie,
Oh, regardez, un
humiliated
gang de
and overwhelmed by the backlash,
Là, c'est le
became
bar de-
reclusive,
d'Okinawa, là.
isolating herself from the family.
C'est la
Her
jeunesse
confident
d'Okinawa.
demeanor was gone, replaced by a deep sense of
Les
shame.
gangsters.
John, too, was haunted by his mistakes,
Et le chat,
feeling
bien
the
sûr.
weight of the family's
Je vais rester
judgment
4
for
semaines,
having
moi.
enabled Debbie's
C'est
behavior.
sûr.
Kevin,
C'est
meanwhile,
sûr et certain.
faced a harsh reckoning with himself. He realized he had betrayed his wife's trust by
Chaque chat,
standing
c'est
passively
spécial.
by and allowing his mother to
Une,
treat her
une
so
journée dans la vie de
poorly.
chaque chat.
Although he
On va
longed to
se-
make
on va se
amends,
regarder.
he felt the distance
amis
between
belges.
them growing.
Merci,
Megan, however,
Manu, pour le
saw
subgift,
this as
merci
her
beaucoup.
chance for freedom. She
Regardez
had
les
endured
amis belges,
enough,
c'est pour vous, ça.
and it was time to leave behind the
On pense
toxic
à vous, même au
environment that
Japon,
had
même au
stifled her
Okinawa, on
for
pense à
so
vous.
long. Her decision to seek a
Incroyable.
divorce was a step toward reclaiming her life.
Incroyable, la Belgique, elle est partout.
Free from the burdens of her
La
in-laws,
Belgique, elle
Megan
rayonne
channeled
plus
her
que la
energy
France.
into her
C'est
career,
une dinguerie.
diving into new projects
C'est
and
une
building
dinguerie.
her reputation as a leader. Her
On va
efforts were
traverser, je pense.
recognized, and she soon received a promotion to
traverser
lead an
là-bas.
ambitious overseas expansion project. The
On
role
est
was
pas
demanding
l'anniversaire.
but invigorating, giving
On est pas
Megan a
l'anniversaire.
renewed sense of purpose and confidence.
Il est partout, lui.
Outside of work, she reconnected with old hobbies, rediscovering the joy of painting, jogging, and exploring activities she had long set aside.
Vive la Belgique.
Her friends noticed the positive change, supporting her
Vive
as
la
she
Belgique,
embarked
une
on
fois.
this new chapter. Megan
Je
began
regarde
mentoring
la
her
news,
colleagues,
mais non.
encouraging them to find strength
C'est
amid
le
their own
21
struggles.
avril.
Her
Le 21
resilience
avril.
inspired those around her, and her workplace became a
Entendez
space
bien.
where she could foster growth and camaraderie. Her life, once filled with turmoil,
regarde le trajet encore
was
une
now
fois.
marked by fulfillment and independence. Just as
On est à 20
Megan
minutes,
began
on a
to
bien-
settle
on a
into
bien
her
avancé.
new life,
bien
unexpected
avancé.
news shook her sense of stability. Debbie's health had declined significantly,
s'arrête bientôt
and John,
Ah.
overwhelmed by the caregiving responsibilities,
maman, encore un peu.
reached out to Megan for help. Although Megan
Tout ça,
felt
il y en a pas.
conflicted, a part
Il y
of
en a
her
plein,
still
tout ça.
felt compassion for the
Il y en a plein,
family.
il y en a plein.
She
On va en
decided to
retrouver, je pense.
visit, feeling that facing them one last time was a necessary
filles,
step in
une fois.
moving forward. When she arrived, John apologized
c'est
for
ma
the
naissance.
years of mistreatment, his voice thick with
naissance.
regret.
L'anniversaire de
Kevin
ma
too
chaîne, le
asked for
premier live
forgiveness,
IRL officiel,
expressing
c'est
a
en,
desire to rebuild their relationship.
c'était en début
But
mars,
Megan,
fin
who
février,
had finally
début
found
mars.
peace,
Et
knew
mon
that
anniversaire à
returning to
moi,
a
c'est
life
en
filled
avril.
with past grievances would only hinder her
Mais non, on
growth.
le dit à 21 avril,
She
c'est
had
vrai.
worked hard to reach a place of self-assurance,
Oublie une fois,
and
on
she
dit
wasn't
jamais.
willing to
Je sais,
compromise her
je viens de
hard-won freedom.
Mais justement, je le dis
Despite her
pour vous embêter.
reluctance to re-engage with her in-laws,
Je le dis pour vous embêter un petit peu,
circumstances
c'est pour ça.
grew more complicated. As Debbie's health
Vas-y,
deteriorated,
à bientôt.
the family's financial
Merci d'être
situation
patiente, Caroline.
worsened. Megan discovered that Kevin had accumulated significant
Maman.
debt behind her back, claiming it was for his mother's
On
care.
demande une fois.
When she learned that he had even turned to illegal means to resolve their financial